You've seen the schedule. So let's not waste each other's time here, because we don't have a lot of time doing the hard stuff that we need to do to get to where we want to go. This is about winning. It's about winning the world championship, period.
It's time for another edition of the Mike McCarthy Show, powered by Reliant Energy, inside the Globe Life studio at the Star in Frisco. Bill Jones joined this week by Isaiah Stanback, as it's a short week for the team. Saturday night game at the Philadelphia Eagles. Cowboys traveled on Friday to Philadelphia after the loss last week against Arizona. It's been a trying week in many ways, too, with the COVID outbreak not only here, but also around the league. And this team just wanting to regain the momentum that they had gotten in December going into the playoffs next week is a big thing for this week.
It's necessary. Now, if anybody knows anything about playoffs, it's all about the hot team at that time. And you want to ensure that you have as much confidence as you can rolling into that season. There's a lot of question marks revolving around this team right now, especially offensively. Offensive line protection, ability to run the ball. Is Dak going to get back on track in terms of his accuracy? So all those things need to be addressed this last week. You can kind of call this a dress rehearsal, but it's a rehearsal that you need to ace.
Yeah, and it remains to be seen which Cowboys players, which Eagles players will be playing in it. Of course, the Eagles headed to the playoffs as well. They had a number of COVID positives, 12 of them back on Monday. But let's talk about one of the guys who tested positive for the Cowboys this past week, Micah Parsons, who won't play in the game on Saturday. But what a season Micah Parsons is having for this Cowboys team, with 13 sacks on the season.
Yeah, this is absolutely amazing rookie season for this young man. You just mentioned it, 13 sacks. It's unfortunate that he misses this game because he's only going to come up 2 sacks short of the rookie record, but he is just that instrumental to this defensive front. These guys are doing amazing things with him present. It's going to be interesting to see who steps up and takes his place. Neil, you got, Bernard, you got, all kinds of guys are going to have to step up and try to fulfill his role, but I don't think that anybody can, just because he's so dynamic.
Yeah, and on a positive note, Keanu Neal is back off the COVID list this week and is eligible to play on Saturday night. All right, let's hear from Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. A couple more positives at his Thursday news conference.
As these protocols are changing and adjusting, and everybody understands what's been put out there from the league and the best recommendations possible. So I mean, that's a constant focus, and obviously we want everybody to use good judgment because we all understand what's in front of us and the challenge that we have, both personally and professionally.
Do you go out of your way and tell them not to go to games, or is that something that you guys can't do? And is it disappointing that that they were out there sitting courtside maskless on the same day that Micah tested positive and was out?
Well, like I said, this is something that goes on a regular basis. I was in a bunch of meetings this morning in regards to our team and the things that we need to do moving forward. So yeah, I mean you want your players to use good judgment and take the precautions as you can, the best they can. So I think they clearly understand it. This is a surge that we're involved with. Clearly not just we're our football team and our community. So yeah, definitely keep identifying the importance and the urgency of taking precaution the best you can.
Which guys are the ones who won't be around today because of their symptoms, even though they haven't tested positive?
Still working through that. So that's actually why I was a little late getting here today. So we got a couple guys that we're looking at. But right now we have Tyron and Anthony are the 2 names we released.
So Tyron Smith, Anthony Brown among the Cowboys that are now on COVID reserve and will be missing this game against the Eagles. And with Anthony Brown out, we're going to see more of the second-round draft pick, the rookie Kelvin Joseph, this week.
Yeah, and you've been seeing a lot of him over the past weeks, ever since he was very active on the special team side of things. But they started putting him into the rotation and giving him a lot more reps. With the reps that I've personally seen him do, he's done a very good job getting up at the line of scrimmage, kind of staying in the hip pocket. But I think it's actually kind of a gift and a curse. I think it's a gift that he's actually coming in and getting some of these reps because it's somebody that you might need to rely on going into the playoffs.
Yep. Okay. How about the Eagles? Jalen Hurts, when you look at the Eagles offense and Nick Sirianni, their first-year head coach, they have really come on and played figured out what they want to do offensively with Jalen Hurts as the season has gone along. They got off to a bad start this year, 3-6 on the season. But what they're doing offensively, taking care of the football, he has the ability to run the ball. What does that present for the Cowboys defense?
It presents a big issue. Obviously, him back there, you have Scott, you have Howard. Those guys are all a threat, especially with the abilities that he possesses. Coming off a week when you face Kyler Murray, you don't get any favors now. You have to face Jalen Hurts. He's making a lot better decisions in terms of what to do with the ball. He's not throwing it up as much as he did earlier in the season. He's decided to tuck and run and get the first down, continue to move the chains. But there's still to be seen that these guys actually can beat an actual competitive team, because these guys are 0-7 versus teams that have a winning record this year.
Well, and you look at the Eagles and what they have done, where they've been able to start winning games against non-playoff teams, mind you, is the fact they are now focused on running the football with those guys that you mentioned. All right, we're just getting started on this edition of the Mike McCarthy Show. Up next, it's David Moore of the Dallas Morning News.
The Mike McCarthy Show, presented by Reliant, is brought to you by AT&T, Ford, built for Texas, built for you. The University of North Texas, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Cowboys. It's Miller time. And by Reliant, an NRG company. This segment is brought to you by the Dallas Morning News. Nobody does sports like Sports Day. Your home for complete Dallas Cowboys coverage.
The Mike McCarthy Show, powered by Reliant Energy, continues now here inside the Globe Life studio as David Moore, the Dallas Morning News, Sports Day DFW, joins us now. Okay, last week, David, was supposed to be a measuring stick game against Arizona. How did that measure out?
And I understand us in the media are usually the ones bringing this up. The players were offering that it was a measuring stick game and the importance of it and how this was going to send a message to the rest of the playoff field exactly of where they are. Well, the message that was sent was you're not quite ready for the postseason yet based on what we saw. Especially when you look around the rest of the NFC and Philadelphia and the Rams were both on the road, and Tampa Bay. All three were on the road. All three fell behind on the road, came back and won. Dallas was at home, never led, and lost. So that was not the message they wanted to send. And so going into this Philadelphia game in the regular season finale, I think they need to get some things right, particularly on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, and it gets an Arizona team also that was missing some key players last week as well. Okay, it remains to be seen who's going to be playing in this game on Saturday night with the COVID issues that both teams have had this week, and also the fact that they both wrapped up playoff spots. But what do the Cowboys need to come out of Saturday night with heading into the postseason?
Well, Mike McCarthy and the players this week spoke about wanting to come out of Philadelphia with a win. I would argue the more important thing is to come out of Philadelphia feeling better about yourself offensively. I don't think you want to go into the postseason with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard combining for 25 yards rushing, which is what you had happen in the loss to Arizona. I don't think you want to go into the postseason saying, well, what happened to that connection between Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, which was so good for so long? Why isn't it to the level that we came to see earlier in the season? So you want to smooth out some of the rough edges offensively going into the postseason.
So you think it's important that these starters play significant time in this game?
I think it is significant. And if you say, do they play from start to finish? I don't know about that, because at some point, if you've achieved those objectives, if you feel good about where you are offensively, if you're able to establish something on the ground, if you're moving the ball through the air, then at some point you say, okay, we feel good about where we are now. They should feel good about it going into the postseason. Let's make sure no one's hurt here. Let's take our foot off the pedal and go in and still try to win this game, but win it with some other people. So I think that's to be determined.
All right, David's going to rejoin the show later. We're going to preview the playoffs in a later segment, but up next, it's Isaiah in the film room as we take an up-close look at the offensive line.
This segment was brought to you by the Dallas Morning News. Nobody does sports like Sports Day. Your home for complete Dallas Cowboys coverage. This segment is brought to you by WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to trust just my preparation and my film study, but then obviously seeing what they do post-snap and getting to my reads and going through them and trust what I'm seeing and, react.
Welcome back to the Mike McCarthy Show, powered by Reliant Energy inside the Globe Life studio. We've now got the telestrator out here in the film room, and Isaiah's going to break it down as we take an up-close look at the Cowboys' offensive line against the Cardinals last week. How would you assess how things went?
We got some work to do. And one of the areas that we have to address, obviously, is being able to protect our QB1, that's Dak Prescott. Last week against the Arizona Cardinals, there were 17 pressures on Dak, and that is entirely too much.
And let's keep in mind, this is the first time all season the Cowboys have had the offensive line that they wanted to throughout the season, which is Tyron Smith at left tackle, Connor Williams, Tyler Biadasz, Zach Martin, and Lyle Collins lining up left to right.
Yeah, so this is a game in which you would think that would never be the case in terms of allowing that many pressures, but yet and still it happened. And out of all the times that the Arizona Cardinals brought a ton of pressure in terms of more guys than we can actually account for, this is not one of them, and yet we still struggle. I'm going to take a deeper dive into it. First thing I want you guys to acknowledge is the fact that there are 5 guys that we need to be concerned about. 4 down defensive linemen, all right, and then there's going to be a linebacker as well. Okay, one of these 2 guys is going to be picked up by the offensive line. Now, there's 5 offensive linemen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in terms of Dak Prescott coming up and being assured that his responsibilities are accounted for, he is perfectly fine. However, there is something that the Arizona Cardinals saw on this offensive front, and it has to do with this gentleman right here, Connor Williams, as well as our young guy, Tyler Biadasz. Both of these guys are the youngest, least experienced guys on the offensive line, and they saw that and they acknowledged it. So you're going to see this defensive end run out. You're going to see this defensive tackle run out. And then you're going to have Peters who's going to cross the face. By crossing the face, he now eliminates, because of the film study, he knows that Connor Williams and Tyler Biadasz have not done a great job of passing off assignments. So you'll see Connor Williams engage with him right now. Boom, we pause it right there. Now we have Tyler Biadasz and we have Connor Williams engaged on one offensive lineman. Again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 offensive linemen accounted for, taking care of 1, 2, 3 guys. There's a problem there because now you have a free runner in Hicks. He is now coming straight through the gap, coming on fire, what you don't want to see right here against Dak Prescott, when it should be, if you pause it again, it should be Connor Williams picking up his assignment. But because of the lack of discipline, the lack of execution, you have pressure on Dak Prescott. Go ahead and push the play button. Now you have an errant throw. He makes a completion, but it's obviously inaccurate, and there should have been some yak yardage allowed there.
And when I watch it on TV, I'm looking at Dak's throw, and I'm saying, well, Dak's inaccurate with his throw. Well, no, he's feeling the pressure there from Jordan Hicks, right?
Pressure that should not have been there. Shouldn't have been accounted for. He felt he should have been good in terms of his pre-snap read. Obviously, once the play initiated, it was something totally different.
All right. Inside look at some of the little things that happen on that offensive line that turn out to be big things when we watch games. All right, coming up next here on the Mike McCarthy Show, spreading the wealth on this Cowboys offense. Welcome back to the Mike McCarthy Show, powered by Reliant Energy inside the Globe Life studio here at the Star. Bill Jones joined by Isaiah Stanback this week. Let's take a look at this Cowboys offense in the game against the Cardinals. One of the highlight plays of that game was the touchdown pass to Michael Gallup. It was not a highlight, though, as far as what happened on that play. What a great catch by Gallup. And it says a lot about Michael Gallup right there. He was able to come up with that catch even after, it turns out, he had torn the ACL on his left knee.
Yeah, I hated seeing this. I knew exactly what it was and when it happened. It was a great throw, back shoulder throw. You run in a route, you stop and you pop. And when you say pop, you actually put your foot in the ground to jump up, and that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, his knee popped. He obviously tore his ACL. Great play, but you see the character of this young man, not only just finishing this play, but just in his ambiance as he's walking off the field, knowing that his season's over. He's still, still smiling, still laughing. This is a huge loss to the Dallas Cowboys going forward, and I just hope that his future is still bright.
And one of the most popular players among his teammates as well on this team. All right, Cedric Wilson, next man up, and we've seen Cedric make some plays this year.
Yeah, Cedric Wilson has always stepped in and done a great job. Cedric Wilson, you have Noah Brown, you have Malik Turner. All these guys are going to have to step up, and luckily you've seen this earlier in the season, especially Malik Turner coming off the bench in late games, going out there making receptions, getting touchdowns. But Cedric Wilson has that go juice. He has the same elements and same attributes that a Michael Gallup has, and he's going to have to step up and obviously fulfill that spot.
All right, let's ask the wide receiver about this passing game. Isaiah, what are you seeing? Amari's not getting the ball as much as he did earlier in the season. CD, not so much lately. What are you seeing with this passing game?
I'm putting a lot of pressure on Kellen Moore. You know, I'm going to go ahead and call out Kellen Moore. Nothing happens offensively unless your offensive coordinator is putting your guys in position to be successful. And you have a man out there in Amari Cooper who is getting paid $1.1 million a game. Any other team that had that kind of asset would force feed him. You think about the Kansas Cities and how they force the ball to Tyreek Hill. You have to find a way to get Amari Cooper going. The one time you did is coming on the heels of him complaining.
All right, Dalton Schultz at tight end. What a nice season Dalton has had. Now it remains to be seen, but Blake Jarwin now is able to practice with the team. His 3-week window has started. How big could it be to have two tight ends, two receiving tight ends going into a playoff game next week?
It's major, and you brought up the receiving aspect of it, but also not only just for that, but for the run game. Now all of a sudden when you step up to the line of scrimmage, you have Dalton Schultz and you have Blake Jarwin. Which one is going to be the strength? Defenses set the strength of their front to the starting tight end. Now they don't know which way to go. Dak now has the ability to come up to the line of scrimmage and simply say alert, alert, and flip the strength of the run. So there's a lot of options that bringing Blake Jarwin back gives this offense.
All right, and you look at this Eagles defense. Now, we'll see who the Eagles are playing this week, but they've got a pretty good cornerback there in Darius Slay. How big of a playmaker is Darius Slay for them?
Darius Slay is a huge attribute for the Philadelphia's defense, not only just in the coverage side of things, but he also has a presence in the run game. And that's not what you want to hear when Dallas is trying to get this run game going and get some form of consistency. The receivers are going to have to do a great job of being precise in their routes, but they're also going to have to do a great job of blocking to ensure they keep him out of the backfield.
All right, should be interesting on Saturday night when the Cowboys head to Philadelphia. Isaiah, stand back. We appreciate you joining us this week here on the Mike McCarthy Show. And up next, we preview the playoffs next week as David Moore rejoins the show. Final couple of minutes here of the Mike McCarthy Show, powered by Reliant Energy, as David Moore rejoins the show. And let's take a look ahead to next week. The Cowboys will be hosting a playoff game. We'll see the time of that. Might be Saturday night. I kind of got the feeling that since the Cowboys were flexed to Saturday night this week, it might be a Saturday night game next week. But, all right. How devastating was that loss to Arizona last week in terms of the playoffs? And they're pretty much locked into the 4th seed now.
They're locked into the 4. There's a chance that they could move out of it. It would require 2 other teams losing, and then you wind up in the correct tiebreaker for them to advance. But they could have controlled it and stayed at the top, number 2 seed if they would have won that game. And given themselves a much better road, in my mind, as far as advancing past the divisional round, which fans here may have heard has not happened in 25 years. So I think they did hurt themselves. I think they did hurt themselves there. But this team can beat anybody in the NFC. Now, even with that loss, them and Green Bay have the best conference record of all of the playoff teams that you'll see. So that shows you how they match up. But I think it's how much can you sustain it? They can beat any team in the NFC, but can they beat 3 teams in the NFC to get to the Super Bowl? And that's a different question.
Well, here's the other thing about it. If the favored teams win in the final regular season game and next week in the wild card round, the Cowboys will host a game against Arizona, and then the second round, if they win that game, they'd be going to Green Bay. If they won that game, they'd likely be going to Tampa Bay or to L.A.
Yeah, and that's what they lost by not staying at the number 2 seed. If they could have stayed there, then they would have hosted at least a second game going forward, which would be a big plus. That being said, Dallas has played pretty well on the road this year. They have a good road record. Now, again, it comes back to their offense. Their offense hasn't been as effective on the road over the course of the season as it has been at home, but that defense is going to give Dallas a chance to win any game it's in. But the offense, I think it's going to have to move beyond having moments, which they've had, and show a little more consistency.
As long as they've got all their players.
And this is the random element to this postseason every team is going to have to deal with.
All right. David Moore, we appreciate it. We appreciate you for joining us here for the Mike McCarthy Show, and we will see you again next week for a playoff preview.
The Mike McCarthy Show, presented by Reliant, was brought to you by Ford, built for Texas, built for you. Bank of America, the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Cowboys. It's Miller time. Geico, switch today and see all the ways you could save. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full and condensed game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl.